Name is James Marin, integrated registered dietitian, environmental nutritionist.
I'm Delia Marin, integrative gut health dietitian, certified gut nutritionist. We're both the co-founders of Married to Health, which is an integrative practice of registered dietitians. And sorry, guys, we're late. That was my bad, but it was for good reason. I was recording the final content for our Good Gut SIBO IBS course, so I
Ooh,
couldn't just stop mid-sentence. I had to
couldn't,
finish my thought.
there's a lot going on, everybody. We are really excited. We
Yes.
we are launching our Good Gut SIBO IBS course, which is 100% plant-based option for SIBO and IBS. We can also tailor it in many ways, but it is if you are familiar with SIBO and IBS and what's out there, it's like eat a pile of fish, eat a pile of chicken, go low FODMAP and not much else. So we're really excited to really get in deep and in the details of
Oh,
SIBO and
it's deep.
IBS.
It's so
It's
deep. I've
deep.
lost my voice from recording for the last week.
It is deep.
So we're excited. But we know today's topic ties into the course. Leaky gut is something we covered in depth in the course. So we are excited to be talking here with you all about leaky gut as well. It is something I think that our main medical system is really just acknowledging as real. I think 5 years ago, you would have practitioners say, oh, leaky gut, that's what quacks talk about, right? That's pseudoscience. But we know it's a very well studied, well documented thing. And so leaky gut can very frequently occur when you have had dysbiosis, when you have had overabundance of microbes in the gut, when you have had an overabundance of just inflammatory gut bugs that can cause irritation and leakiness in the gut. So we want to talk all about what it is, what you can do if you have leaky gut, what are symptoms of leaky gut, and how to move forward.
So if you guys have questions on leaky gut, feel free to post them. We're going to get into
Mhm.
if you're curious about leaky gut, and you should be. This is really at the root of so many gut issues, and especially chronic gut issues that we're seeing is this leakiness of the gut. And this is backed by science. So medically, it's called gut hyperpermeability, where you're just
Intestinal
seeing, right,
hyperpermeability.
intestinal hyperpermeability, where you're seeing that just that what we'll call leakiness, right? Where essentially things are going through the gut lining that really shouldn't be going into and through the gut lining. So,
It is cheesy, but what happens in the gut should stay in the gut. Kind of like what they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So what happens
right.
in the gut and the vagus nerve should stay in the gut. But if you're finding that every time you eat, within 30 minutes, you have horrible brain fog,
Right.
fatigue, you have joint pain, you're extremely pained in your gut, those can be symptoms of leaky gut. And
Yeah.
so it's so important to really take care of your leaky gut so that way those symptoms aren't lifelong and they're not something you're just struggling through and living through. And somebody's asking, I think this is a timely question just to get us started.
Perfect.
What should be addressed first, leaky gut or SIBO?
Ooh.
Love this question because it really does matter what order you go in. I always say when you have SIBO, it's almost like a fire broke out, right? You have just an overabundance of fuel for the fire. You have these, irritating gut microbes or just normal gut microbes who overgrew.
Mhm.
And when there is that fire that broke out, these gut bugs are going to, one, feed off of your food. And if you're not feeding them enough, maybe you're like, well, I'm not going to treat them, but I'll go low FODMAP or I'll go on these elimination diets without treating them. They will eat your layer of protective mucus. So we have a whole gut associated lymphoid tissue network. We have this immune tissue in our gut. It is our IgA immune system that lives in this mucus in our gut. And our gut bugs are hungry and they will get food wherever they can. So if that's not from your food that you're physically eating, they will also metabolize your mucosal barrier. It's so rich in carbohydrates, polysaccharides, it's so rich in nutrients. They will eat and wear down that layer of mucus. So first you want to take care of the offenders, eradicate the SIBO because you can't rebuild walls in a building that's still on fire. Put out the fire first, then worry about rebuilding the walls and redecorating them. That's kind of
Right.
what working on leaky gut is. You've put out the fire first, the offender is no longer there, and then you're rebuilding the structure of your gut, the lining of your gut, and you're redecorating the walls with that beautiful barrier of mucus. If there's an active fire and you're throwing things in there that are helpful for leaky gut, You're eating aloe and cactus and okra and oats and some of these other foods that are rich in that kind of mucusy compound like chia and flax. Or maybe you're taking L-glutamine or N-acetyl D-glucosamine and there's still a fire going on, it will just get burned up. So
Mhm.
work on the SIBO first. And that is so important to eradicate that first. Clear out the dysbiosis, work on your motility so things are not going to become stagnant and overgrown again, and then work on the structure of your gut, the barrier of your gut, the lining of your gut. And we always like to talk about how delicate the gut is.
Yeah, so the gut is a single layer thin, guys. That we always say your gut is really, really amazing. Obviously, it's very, very cool, and it's a connector. So it's a single cell layer thin because it's meant to connect you to your environment, to what you're eating, obviously, but to where you live, who you work with, who you're living with, how often you're in nature, and what you're doing in nature. It's meant to be a connector. So when your gut is having issues, and there is overlap with leaky gut symptoms and SIBO or IBS or many other disorders of the gut. There's many overlap in symptoms. So when you're having these symptoms, take it as a sign of a check engine light or a beacon going wah, wah, something's wrong. You don't just kind of live with your smoke detector going constantly beep, beep, beep. You're obviously gonna be like, okay, I should maybe look into that, or maybe there's smoke somewhere, or maybe someone's burning something, right? When you're living with gut symptoms, it's like living with your smoke alarm just beeping on and off throughout the day. It's like, let's address why that is. Maybe it's as simple as a battery change. Maybe there's no smoke. Maybe it's as simple as like, oh, someone burnt something down in the kitchen. Let's make sure that's cleaned up, right? Or it could be, wow, there's a major fire going on. We need to get out of here, right? So you want to address these symptoms. They are an alarm system because our gut is meant to connect us to so much. So we have a lot of examples. Dahlia just shared one of her patients realized, oh my gosh, I lifted up my bed and my mattress, and there was mold in my mattress and the carpet under my bed, which we don't really, maybe we vacuum it here and there. We
Her
don't.
mattress was directly on the carpet.
Oh, her mattress was directly on the carpet. Wow, okay. So then lifting it up, which maybe you don't do often enough, and you're finding mold, right? So if you live, especially on the East Coast or in very wet climates, whether it's tropical East Coast where there's lots of snow, or northern climates where there's lots of snow and it's very
Or you've
wet,
had just a water leak, or maybe
water
pets
leak,
who
who kind of pee when you're
urinate
not
on your
looking.
mattress. Yeah.
So many things, guys, where your gut is trying to tell you something, and whether it is looking on the outside of your body, like in your room, on your mattress, in your walls, or it's on the inside of going, what am I eating? What am I breathing? What am I drinking? You want to take time to do that, okay? And again, some of these symptoms, so again, whether it's your kids, whether it's you, whether it's a parent, grandparent, you're having hives, you're having allergic reactions, you're having, again, these problems with histamines, right? Where you're always maybe taking a Benadryl or you're on all these allergy medications. You're obviously having bloating and gas, and your stomach doesn't feel good, constipation, diarrhea, right? You're maybe finding it hard to keep food down, where you just feel like you're regurgitating food, or maybe you are vomiting after some meals and it's not self-induced. You're just like, I just don't feel well. I feel full after 2 bites. So many of these symptoms that we live with on a day-to-day basis, but we're saying, check into that, look into that. And it is related to this gut leakiness, but also could be related to SIBO, which is a microbial or bacterial overgrowth, right? So I know it's a
Mhm.
lot there for sure.
So, with that gut barrier being so or so easily affected, I will say, because like James said, it's one cell layer thick and it's easy to damage that skin. And, again, the gut is a hollow organ, but what happens in the gut should stay in the gut.
Mm,
And when we have that leakiness where that protective layer of mucus got broken down, and now the skin, the gut epithelium is now broken down, now food proteins and
right.
microbes and bacteria and viruses that your gut was trying to process are now alive in your bloodstream. And that can trigger your immune system to become overactive, overreactive. A lot of you, when I see my patients, tell me, well, I had food sensitivity test,
Mm,
IgG food sensitivity tests. Maybe I sent in a hair sample or a saliva sample or a blood sample. I did a finger prick and it's IgG. That's your immune system in your blood. So
Right.
if you're thinking about doing one of those, save your money. If you've already done one and a lot of foods came back, it doesn't necessarily mean those are the foods that made your gut leaky to cause them to leak out into your blood. It just means you've had leaky gut likely before you even did the test. And the foods that are showing up there, 99% of my patients who have those tests done say, these are the foods I'm eating. Why? I'm now sensitive to everything I'm eating. You're not sensitive to it. It just leaked out in your blood. You have leaky gut. So if you've done one of those IgG tests and more than one or two things shows up on it, you very likely have pretty leaky gut. So take care of that. Take care of what's called the tight junctions that really
Mhm.
comprise the layers of your gut. They do look like these cells that are holding on to one another, clinging on to one another for dear life.
Right.
So that could be an indicator that you do have that leaky gut. We talked about some of the symptoms that could indicate that you have leaky gut. But if you have taken one of those food sensitivity tests and everything comes back lit up that you're eating, you have leaky gut. If you haven't taken one, don't. Save your money. There are other ways to kind of assess for leaky gut, or a trained practitioner who's knowledgeable should help you assess for leaky gut. But one of the best ways to test for SIBO, which is what someone's asking, best ways to test for SIBO and leaky gut, best way to test for SIBO is a breath test. So, if you can do a breath test, whether that's at your practitioner's office and they have a machine that tests for hydrogen and methane overabundance, or you do an at home, my favorite's the Trio Smart test. It looks for hydrogen, methane, and hydrogen sulfide gas. It's an at home test.
Mhm.
You prep the day before the test. You don't eat fiber. The day of the test, you drink either lactulose, which is glucose plus lactose, or you just drink glucose, and then you're testing your breath for the 2 hours after that to determine, do you have overgrowth. There's a little bit of prep before that. You also don't want to take laxatives or anything to promote motility for the week before. But a breath test is my favorite way. We're kind of moving away now from that small bowel aspirate where during an endoscopy, they would take a sample of the fluid in your small intestine and assess for overgrowth of hydrogen or methane producing bugs. That at home breath test can help you rule out SIBO. Or you don't want to discount SIFO, small intestinal fungal overgrowth, or just intestinal fungal overgrowth. My favorite way to test for that is through either symptoms, if you have kind of symptoms of fungal overgrowth or yeast overgrowth. You might have a white coating on your tongue, oral thrush. You could have a lot of fullness and congestion in your ears and nose. You could have dry, flaky skin in different areas, like in your ears, on your scalp, or on your skin. Yeast is very dehydrating and they like to live in moist areas. So they like to live on the scalp, the ears, the nose, the gut, vaginal microbiome. If you have vaginal yeast infections, those can all be signs that maybe you have yeast overgrowth. Or if you have a vaginal swab and you come back positive for vaginal yeast, it's pretty likely it's also in your gut. You can also do urine tests that help you assess for metabolites or things that yeast put out. They'll look for things like D-arabinitol, but those are great ways to test for fungal overgrowth. And to test for leaky gut, usually you're going to test for things like fecal zonulin. Zonulin is a gut binding protein. So if you have elevated amounts of zonulin in your gut, that means that this protein that's present in these tight junctions is getting broken down and now it's in your stool. So you can have a fecal test for zonulin. You can also assess for your IgA levels. Like I said, your IgA is your immune system that lives in your mucus. If you have super low IgA, you have very little mucus. If your IgA is really high, you're probably eating something you're allergic or highly intolerant to. So you can assess your IgA levels as well. So you want to really look at some of those tight junction binding proteins, and you can look for IgA as well to assess if you have leaky gut. But listen to your body and your symptoms.
Right. And so the really I want to say sinister, that's the word that comes to mind. Part of this is going like, man, I have all these gut symptoms and I'm hearing like I should just not eat fiber. So I'm gonna go low FODMAP. I'm gonna cut out all my legumes and beans and peas and lentils, and I'm gonna cut out all, leafy greens, and I'm gonna cut out cruciferous vegetables and grains. I'm hearing grains are really horrible because they make my gut hurt and they have all these phytates and lectins, and I'm gonna eliminate all of that. You end up seeming kind of this like paleo carnivore as we're seeing that kind of rise. and going more towards that route. When at the same time, what is likely happening is you've already been on maybe a very low fiber diet without realizing your
Mhm.
mucosal lining is being eaten by the microbes that are hungry for carbohydrates because your body needs carbohydrates, or even prominent carnivore enthusiasts who are very popular that we all maybe have seen or know of that are now saying, oh yeah, I'm eating more carbohydrates, we need more carbohydrates. This is a consensus. Very, very important to eat healthy and whole food carbohydrates. And so now your microbes are eating your mucosal layer. And then so many people, while this is happening to feel better, opt for even less fiber and
Mm.
carbohydrates. So then those microbes continue to eat that mucosal layer, like Dahlia is describing. And as they're eating
Without
away,
repairing it.
right. So you're not repairing it, they're eating away, and now you're prone to this immune reaction, right? And this is really the slippery slope of I was kind of constipated as a kid and lots of allergies. Now, as an adult, I'm chronically constipated.
Mm.
Maybe it's mixed with some diarrhea. And then you can kind of keep going with that and going like, I'm seeing mucus in my stool.
Mm.
I've taken too many cleanses and detoxes. I'm now seeing blood in my stool. And what's happening is you go from this kind of like early warning signs to IBS to IBD, even, which is like Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, where you're getting this chronic inflammation and activation of your immune system. And that continual damage can then leave you way more susceptible to colonic cancer. So we're seeing a rise in colonic cancer. This is the slippery slope, guys, that really starts with that leakiness and can start even with that overgrowth.
Yeah.
And both need to be addressed in the right order. Thank you for watching this. We hope you know by now Married to Health really does everything we do coming from a need in our community, a need from our patients, a need from being dietitians for over a decade, from running our own private practice. And we continued that when we formulated Gut Nurture. So if you didn't know, Dahlia Marin, RDN, LD, CGN formulated Gut Nurture along with Complement. We truly believe it is a great complement for your gut health journey. Why is that? Well, it's low histamine, it's low FODMAP, it's organic, even the package is compostable. We really designed it with a patient in mind that is wanting to eat more plants, that needs to eat more plants, but is struggling to eat more plants. This is that bridge. We also designed it for the person who's just like, I want to boost my gut, I want to feel really good, I want to help with the structure, function, and population of the gut. This is unlike anything that's really out there in that, as it's focused on being a prebiotic, not really a probiotic. So the idea here, you can think of Gut Nurture as compost for your gut ecosystem. It's not trying to force seeds and the probiotics in, it's trying to create a beautiful environment and a beautiful foundation. So any seeds you get from the fermented foods you're eating, from your environment, from the beautiful habits you're building, whether you're working with us or not, they are going to fall on this beautiful, healthy soil with this beautiful, healthy compost and create a lush, beautiful ecosystem and garden, creating an abundance of fruit and postbiotics that are going to keep you healthy and thriving. So click down below, learn more about Gut Nurture, and we'll continue with the episode.
And I think it's so important not just to focus on the overgrowth, but also to focus on what James was saying, that we're sometimes not feeding the good guys enough.
Right.
The good guys can also repair the lining of our intestines and produce more mucus for us. So we want to make sure we're feeding them those carbohydrates. They create those postbiotics, those byproducts called short chain fatty acids. And these help to repair the lining of the intestines. They also can
Yeah.
repair other tissue in the body, which is amazing, like your pancreas, your liver, your kidney, your heart, others. But you want to make sure you're catering to the good guys and not just only focusing on the irritators, because
Yeah.
sometimes less is less, right? And you will end up feeling that, like James was saying. More elimination is not always favorable. Sometimes it is also just catering to the good guys that we want to see high and active in your gut so they can repair the lining in your gut. And then we're eating enough of those mucousy foods where then they're metabolizing that and they're adding to that mucus.
What comes to mind are the parasite testing now that's getting more popular. I mean, there were
Ooh.
so many. I mean, elimination diets have always been so popular and they come in different names and packages. And then detox diets, which, don't get us wrong, detox programs, there's really high quality ones out there. They can be
that are
great,
food based.
that are food based,
Hmm.
but doing them.
Check out Dr. Viv has a great one, Plateful
Okay.
Health, and she uses just lifestyle and diet to just support your detox
Shout out.
organs, your liver, your your stool, your
Yeah.
kidneys, your lungs, your skin. So don't get us wrong, we're not poo-pooing these things, but we're
Right.
saying don't jump to that.
Don't jump to that. And then how often are you doing them? And these kind of all go in line with this idea that I'm going to force my body to do something that maybe it doesn't want to do or it's not ready to do. So this gets complicated. Again, this is not medical advice. We work with patients one on one. Our program is coming out that is very, I don't want to say very complex, but it's very, very detailed and thorough. So if you're not ready to put in work, please, you don't have to listen, like you click off. No, I'm just kidding. No, but if you're not ready to put in the work, like this program probably isn't for you. This is really about facing this problem head on, not running away or not looking for an easy solution. It is about doing the work to really dig deep. And a quick
Mhm.
analogy that we give a lot is like debt, guys. Many of us have experienced debt. We were in the situation of student loans at one point. Like we've all experienced debt, and the goal is to not just run away from it, right? So this is very, very similar when it comes to your gut symptoms. Do not run away from them. Okay, you want to face them head on. So in the same way you could rip up the notices in the mail, change your phone number, change your email so you're not getting these notifications of the debt you owe, and go, oh, I feel so much better. You feel better for a short time, and that is similar to running away from fiber and plant foods and grains and beans and whatever else is you're feeling like, oh, that irritates my gut. I got to run away from it. No, that is not the solution. You have to face it head on in the appropriate way, just like you would with debt. You're going to create a budget. You're going to know, okay, this is what I should pay off first, and this is how I'm going to get healthy, and this is how I'm going to save. And then you pay off that debt, and you're in a much better place sustainably long term in your life. So
Mhm.
that is one of our favorite analogies. But we have some questions. So we're seeing your questions, guys. Let's get into some. Um, this one here, I just wish the breath test was covered by
Mm.
insurance. What if your root
Sometimes it
cause,
is if you ask for a
yeah.
gastroenterologist to order it.
What if your root cause is something that is more chronic? Adhesions, ME, CFS, menopause, celiac damage. Yeah.
So something like encephalomyelitis or chronic fatigue syndrome, menopause, celiac
Oh,
damage, those things absolutely can leave you with leakiness, especially
mhm.
celiac. I do see this very frequently in my celiac patients where they're like, "Man, I'm low FODMAP. I'm not having solid stool. It's so uncomfortable." Sometimes just the celiac has damaged that brush border of the small intestine to the point where you're not making enough enzymes. So sometimes I'll
Right.
support my celiac patients with enzymes and then leaky gut support. So we'll eat those gooey foods. We'll increase protein with so you are getting those amino acids naturally in your diet. And sometimes we'll use other amino acids like
Mhm.
L-glutamine or N-acetyl D-glucosamine. So sometimes for chronic conditions like that, you could maybe need some ongoing support. For celiac, if you're really vigilant and you're really trying to avoid cross contamination, getting gluten, you're only eating certified gluten free foods. If you're going out to eat, hopefully it's a certified gluten free kitchen. If you're really making sure you're not getting gluten, celiac is should be pretty well controlled with a gluten-free diet. Sometimes you might need a gliadin-free diet as well, which is another protein found in other grains like oats, wheat, barley, and rye. So if you need to be gliadin free, you might consider that. There is a concept that is being more well studied now called molecular mimicry, where some of these foods look very similar in their structures. So sometimes avoiding other foods that look similar or are in the same family as wheat, barley, rye, or oats if you're sensitive to the gliadin as well. Maybe you're avoiding dairy and some of these other foods that could be cross reactors. So sometimes that's needed for things like celiac and for chronic disease like chronic fatigue syndrome or any type of encephalomyelitis, then maybe you do need some ongoing inflammatory support. So that could be an anti inflammatory, whether that is over the counter or prescription. Maybe you're doing something like a prescription anti inflammatory like LDN, or if your care team has you on a biologic or something else to control that inflammation, you may need that. So you want that ongoing support because it could be something chronic you're dealing with. So
Mm.
it's always important to identify the cause and then understand, is the support short term? Can my gut leakiness be reversed after just a couple months of a protocol? Or do I have more of an ongoing long term disease where maybe I need ongoing long term support? So you really
Mhm.
want to assess your risks and work with your care team to really understand your root causes and your risk factors.
Trying to do
Let's see this
so
one.
how do you add in plant-based protein without running into FODMAP issues? Great
Ooh,
question.
there's so many great low FODMAP proteins.
Yeah.
I love recommending this. We specialize in plant-based IBS, so we are well versed in helping our patients ensure they're eating enough protein. You do not only need to get beans as your protein, and even if you don't have IBS, beans are not really amazing sources of protein. They're just like pretty okay
Pretty
sources of
good.
protein.
Yes.
But you want to go for those low-hanging fruits. So you can do things like tofu, high protein tofu. You can definitely eat a FODMAP appropriate portion. Tempeh is low FODMAP, and those are high protein items. You can do things like pumfu, which is pumpkin seed tofu and is low FODMAP. You
Mhm.
can eat certain low FODMAP beans. Eat your lentils, eat your chickpeas, your lima beans, edamame. You can eat the different types mung beans. You can eat some of those low FODMAP beans. Don't discount seeds, right? Use seeds in concentrated forms like pumpkin seed tofu, pumfu, or maybe you're using sunflower seed protein or hemp protein powder if you can't tolerate a pea protein powder. So many amazing ways to make sure that you're getting enough protein, even if you are low FODMAP. And of course, some of your low FODMAP veggies are going to give you protein as well.
Mhm.
But use your seeds: hemp, chia, flax, pumpkin, sunflower, sacha inchi, all amazing sources of protein.
Love it. Do you have an opinion on fermented foods? Some plant doctors say we should be eating them, and other doctors say that the
Mm.
salt is too damaging for the gut and can lead to stomach cancer. So there was a study that came out roughly, God, was it like 10 years ago already or more, um, with an association between stomach cancer and like a lot of salty and kimchi and those rich foods. It wasn't. I'd have to just double check, so don't quote me here, but it wasn't a very well done study. It wasn't like a randomized control trial. It was a very very weak on that kind of end of the
Study
spectrum
design.
association and study design and everything. I think since then, and at that time, there was very little evidence and studies being done on fermented foods. Since then, we've had an amazing, at least what I would
Mhm.
call an amazing
Influx.
systematic review of like dozens, if not hundreds, of studies on fermented foods that are like eat fermented foods. And right now, the recommendation is eating at least, if you can, 6 servings of fermented food. So that could be a plant based fermented yogurt, that could be kimchi, that could be sauerkraut, could be kombucha, again not with a bunch of added sugar and things like that, but a decent amount of, let's say, I mean, I know that there's got GTs. They usually add a fruit base that then the bacteria like to eat because they do need a substrate to eat. But a lot of kombuchas out there becoming like soda, where they'll add sugar for the bacteria to eat, and then they're adding sugar after the fermentation process. So you're just getting a super sweet, fizzy drink with some benefit, but it's resembling a soda. So be careful out there. But overall, we are of the mindset to eat your fermented foods. We don't. There are many other things with a stronger association and even great studies done that increases your cancer. We don't really feel like fermented foods are one of those things. I think that's kind of
Mhm.
outdated research that then the media kind of went with and scared people about kimchi, but I don't think
Yeah.
that's really up to date.
And sometimes it is just the amount of salt, or sometimes it is also just certain chemicals that are added to the kimchi
Yes, that's
or
another layer.
fermented soybean pastes like miso, which can which are increased by fermentation. So if they're adding a lot of salt, some of these chemicals are just enhanced by the fermentation process. And then we do know certain populations who happen to really have this as a regular part of their diet, and have certain genetic polymorphisms or genetic mutations are at more susceptible risk for stomach cancer. So, a lot
Wow.
of these cultures who are eating lots of kimchi, fermented soy products, studies have actually found that one, they often smoke as well, and two, they have high prevalence of these gene mutations that is going to cause them to over ferment these properties and increase their risk for stomach cancer. So, eat your 4 to 6 servings of probiotic foods every day. If you're weary about the salty ones, maybe don't eat kimchi and sauerkraut all the time or miso, but
Mhm.
maybe you're doing tempeh that you're not cooking to death. Maybe you're doing a better quality kombucha, like James was saying, or a water kefir or coconut kefir, or a good dairy free yogurt, or a good dairy free cheese that has those added probiotics. So be creative,
And they
get it in
said,
other ways.
well, someone said, so glad to hear because I love
I
kimchi.
love
We
kimchi
we just ate
too.
kimchi last night. We love kimchi. Like
We're
it's
huge fans of kimchi. I'm not worried about stomach cancer. I know that overall the benefits outweigh the risks. So
and
get a high
yeah.
quality kimchi, take care of your gut, and it will take care of you again. It's going to appreciate that kimchi instead of being assaulted by it.
Shout out to what is that? Little kimchi.
Uh-huh.
I forgot the
I don't remember.
fermentation planet. I think it is. That's one of our favorites.
Pickled planet.
Pickled Planet. Pickled Planet. Shout out Pickled Planet. And they have one called Lil Kimchi. It tastes so great. Super great ingredients. I'm seeing, I love your guys' question. That's great. I'll do a simple one. This is one just random coming in. Is it better to grind the chia seeds first? Because we were talking about chia seeds, that gooiness, that stickiness of foods like chia and oat and okra are great to help with that gut mucosal layer, to help with that leaky gut. Can you grind them? Yeah. You can eat them whole, make a chia pudding. You can bake them. You can throw them in so many different recipes. One that even Dr. B was creating that went viral, I think it was last year, was the chia drink where you're adding the chia seeds in water and doing, I forgot what they even called it, like a gut flush or something. But really at the end of the day, you're just getting in great soluble
Internal shower.
fiber, the internal shower, right? So it was just a bunch of chia seeds. Like, yeah, eat the chia seeds, drink the chia seeds, grind them if you want, and then you can add a little bit less because when you grind them, it gets really thick really quick. So be careful with grinding them. But
Layla and
yeah,
I were subject to James making a
I did an
chia
experiment
pudding that he ground up and
and I
wasn't
just,
our favorite.
yeah, yeah. I speak from experience of experimenting with different recipes with chia seeds. So very cool. All right. What are your thoughts on H&B protein supplements? I
Hmm.
haven't
I haven't looked into it a lot.
taken
It's
H&B.
hydroxy beta methyl butyrate.
Oh, interesting. So they're adding a postbiotic. They're
Mm,
adding essentially a short chain fatty acid to protein.
mm, interesting. I don't know. I
I
can't give you an opinion. I haven't looked into it enough yet.
I know, look, I know there was a study. I have to double check this. So again, don't quote me, but with this adding postbiotics first and foremost, especially to a protein that is a very acidic breakdown. I mean, there's a reason why we're creating postbiotics in the colon. Now, if you're not encapsulating the postbiotics or putting them in the right
Medium.
medium and concentrations, they might not do much. So there's more to it. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, short chain fatty acid supplementation as well as short chain fatty acid supplements, are becoming more mainstream. They're going out there, but there's very little research on it. So we'll see. I mean, if you try it and you're like, hey, I feel great, great. Like as long as it's I would say with any protein supplement, make sure it's third party tested, make sure you know what's in it. And the company should be very transparent. This should be on their website. If not, and you kind of got to email them and ask all these questions, they're like, oh, we don't know, or they're not fully disclosing, kind of a red flag. Be careful where those ingredients are coming from. So yeah,
I don't
but
know. I'm
we'll
looking up the
see.
data. It's inconclusive. I would say there's not a lot of really strong data on it. So I don't think we know enough yet about these postbiotics and how to preserve them to really start infusing them into a lot of different things. So I don't know.
And
If you feel better on it, great. But I don't think there's a risk for it. But I don't think it's always applicable. So
and and keep in mind, one of the best ways to get probiotics or postbiotics and probiotics is eating them. So like this is what we want to get all of you to. This is the essence of Heal with Each Meal, which is to with every meal, create an environment that microbes like to live in, which are the
Mhm.
probiotics, and then create the environment where you're feeding those probiotics, which then will make you these postbiotics like HMB, like all of these short chain fatty acids and proteins and B vitamins and more that we have yet to discover. That is amazing.
The analogy that I like to give, if you're like, what's a postbiotic? Now you
Yeah.
guys, I've heard about prebiotics and probiotics. What the heck is a postbiotic? Are you guys making stuff up? Um, think of your gut as a garden, and your probiotics are the seeds. So you have them within your gut. You can add more if you'd like through food and other mediums, but you have the seeds. You want to nourish them and take care of them with prebiotic fiber, kind of like we nourish seeds with water and soil and sunlight and nutrients. So when you feed the probiotics, the prebiotics, then you take care of them well. And they say, hey, thanks. Here's some fruit or a flower. I want to make sure that you feel good because you made me feel so good. Those are postbiotics. So this is what your gut then puts out for you and says, hey, good job. Thanks for being a good host. Here's something back for you.
Mhm.
So if you're doing the right things, getting those probiotic foods, those fermented foods, you're having enough prebiotic fiber, your gut will give you back
And
postbiotics.
then it's crazy because the cycle continues. Isn't it crazy that then we get these foods and we put them back in our body, and those are the prebiotics, and the cycle starts all over again? It is this cyclical, beautiful relationship, which goes, if you guys weren't here in the beginning, we talked about your gut really being a connector to the outside world, and food is a wonderful medium to that. So we are meant to be connected to our environments and what we're eating, how we're eating, and where we're eating, where it's coming from. So this
Mhm.
goes great into the next question. Someone's asking, what are some foods that can be eaten when your gut is highly inflamed?
Mm.
Kale and greens tend to create more gut pain for me.
Ooh.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We know you're probably getting quite a bit from it. It can be a lot of information, can be overwhelming, and we totally get that. Dahlia was there not too long ago suffering with IBS and SIBO-like symptoms. She was hunched over very often, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, skin issues, hormonal issues, the list goes on and on. So we know this. We've been in practice now as registered dietitians for over a decade, and we created our Good Gut SIBO IBS program for you. If you're experiencing IBS, SIBO symptoms, IMO, SIFO, the list goes on and on. If you're like, I'm not really sure what this is, click down below. We have a free assessment for you, and that'll likely lead you to our Good Gut SIBO IBS program, which is chock full of information we wish we had. It's information that we're giving to our patients, so it's all at your fingertips in one package. It's 7+ hours of video. It is dozens and dozens of handouts. It's tailored meal plans and recipes to truly help you get to the root, to truly help you understand what's going on so you can truly heal with each meal. Check it out down below.
I want to ask this person to think about what greens. Is it lettuce that creates gut pain, or is it kale and spinach and bok choy and Swiss chard?
Mm.
Yes, greens are just, they're harder to break down because they're higher in fiber. But some greens are also higher in sulfur. So if you're finding you have a lot of gut pain and hypersensitivity, and when you eat certain high sulfur foods like garlic, onions, broccoli, some of these high sulfur greens, that you feel worse, could be more of a sulfur thing. But if it's kind of just a fiber thing, then, well, and if it's a sulfur thing, take care of that. Work with your care team. We've done a live on hydrogen sulfide SIBO, so refer back to that. But if it's more of just fiber and your gut's irritated and inflamed, then pre-digest the fiber. So ways that you can do that are soak, sprout, freeze, cook, or even better, pressure cook and blend. So if you're finding kale is bothering you, and if it's not the sulfur, you're like, no, I don't have gas that smells like rotten eggs or that hypersensitivity. It's just, it's rough. And then I'm pooping out pieces of kale undigested. Break down the kale before you eat it. Maybe wash the kale, freeze the kale, cook the kale, and then blend it in a smoothie or a soup.
Mhm.
So,
You can even massage the kale
mm,
with a great fat like avocado or tahini. And that's a win win for the fat soluble vitamins that you're eating in the kale, as well as just kind of breaking down the kale. And it just tastes amazing. So, yeah, those are great.
Hopefully that helps, but do that with the rest of your foods. Again, determine, is it a sulfur thing or is it a fiber thing? And if it's a fiber thing, break down the fiber. Do as much pre-work as you possibly can. Let your gut rest and heal. If it's already inflamed, it's trying to heal itself. So don't assault it or bombard it. I don't want to say assault it. Bombard it with really high fiber foods that it has to digest. Give it a little bit of a break.
And go to marytalk.com if you need one-on-one help. We have 7 dietitians that see patients all over the world. So if you need that
Mhm.
one-on-one support, marytalk.com. How do you get rid of SIBO? So now
Mm.
this is moving into SIBO. So leaky gut and SIBO are like
Hand in
unwanted
hand.
siblings. They're holding hands. They're like, "Yay, we're gonna wreak havoc." So they are very much hand in hand. And like Dahlia mentioned before, you do want to take care of the SIBO. It's like putting out the fire before you start rebuilding the home, right? So part of the process is taking care of the SIBO while at the same time, right? You're balancing that microbial population, but you're also repairing the structure and function of the gut, and that is repairing a lot of that leakiness in the gut. So this is, I mean, this could be a whole talk, which we've done. Go to our YouTube on Married to Health, which there's videos on our approach to SIBO and how we treat our plant-based approach to SIBO. And it can look a little bit different for everyone because we even did a video on the different types of SIBO. So this is a whole Pandora's box. But roughly, I mean, I'll maybe start and because Dahlia can go really, really deep on this. But really with SIBO, what's out there is your gastro or doctor will say, here's this antibiotic for your SIBO. And for those that aren't familiar, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is what SIBO stands for. Here's the antibiotic. All right, good luck. And you go, okay. And you take the antibiotic. And then you're like, whoa, I feel great because, yeah, which you should, because it decreased that SIBO, killed a bunch of microbes. So you're like, wow, great. They're not fermenting and making me feel bloated and all this stuff. But then usually 3 months goes by and the SIBO comes right back. And you're like, oh, and you go to the doctor again. And we've seen this happen time and time again with patients who are like, I'm on my 4th round of antibiotics, or I switched from antibiotics. Now I'm taking herbal antimicrobials, which is sometimes worse than the antibiotic. And they've been on these antimicrobials, antibiotics for too long, right? Going through these cycles. The winning combination is yes, you can do an herbal antimicrobial or an antibiotic, but it has to be in line with the right lifestyle diet changes that are going to be that 1-2 punch to really go, okay, I'm taking care of my immediate symptoms, because we've seen patients who are bedridden who have really severe symptoms with SIBO. But at the same time, I'm looking at the root causes and making changes that are going to help me long term and not have to keep coming back to the antibiotic and the antimicrobials. So that is a short answer, I
Mhm.
think, for what do I do for
Yeah.
SIBO.
Work on the balance, the motility and flow, and then the structure of the gut.
And honestly, and if you're gastro, which many aren't aware of what to do, if they're like, I don't have answers for you
Or your
on or
dietitian.
your dietitian, then seek other help. That's why we created Married to Health, guys. That's why we have a private practice. Okay. marriedtohealth.com. Reach out. We're happy to answer any of your questions. And we're here to just help, guys. This is our passion. This is what we love to do. What are your thoughts on protein intake for someone with pre-gout versus gout?
Mm.
Food that would assist recovery from gout. So now we're moving into gout. I love it. This is where
But
there's
there is a
lives.
component of leaky gut with gout
They're
as
definitely,
well.
as well as fungal
Dysbiosis.
overgrowth with gout.
Interesting. So
Yes.
assess the status of your gut. Usually, you do not have enough anti inflammatory microbes in your gut
Right.
to control some of these inflammatory gut bugs. They are then unable to break down uric acid, and
Mm,
you then take the urea that you're eating, and this can be very rich in proteins. You then are forming uric acid crystals. And instead of being broken down and excreted through your gut, first and foremost, or through urine, you're now having these crystals form and kind of uh, settle into your different joints. So it's pretty typical for different joints to swell and become inflamed with these uric acid crystals. If your gut is right, you should not have kidney stones, uric acid stones, any of these other type of stones. Really work on getting your gut in balance. Make sure you don't have overabundance of these inflammatory microbes in your gut. Try to increase anti-inflammatory microbes in your gut. Try to increase antioxidants in your diet. So if you have pre-gout, congrats, you do not have full-on gout. You have a chance to keep working on the balance and the barrier of your gut, so you don't have these you don't have urea and uric acid crystals settling outside of the gut, because
Mm.
again, your gut should take care of it. So decrease inflammation. So eat those beautiful dark colored foods, your
Mhm.
blackberries, your blueberries, your pomegranates, your kale. Figure out how to
Beets.
infuse these. Ooh, I love beets.
Y-
Love it.
Yummy.
Vitamin C, also high antioxidant, but studies show 400 milligrams of vitamin C a day can help bind to these crystals, so that way you can excrete them through your stool. Hibiscus, high in vitamin C and
Oh yeah.
antioxidants. So
Mhm.
really, really up your antioxidants, but first and foremost, work on your gut balance and work on your gut barrier with some of the tips we've shared.
Love it. Maybe we'll take a couple more. Oh, they said kale, spinach, lettuce. Yeah.
So that sounds like more of a fiber thing than a
Yeah,
sulfur thing.
which can be good news. So yeah, it
Mhm.
sounds more like a fiber thing. Um, I think
These
all
are our
right.
questions.
I
Love
love
it.
it. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you being here with us on a Good Gut Live, talking about
Mhm.
leaky gut, and of course SIBO's in the conversation
Always.
always because that's what it is.
Ooh,
Um,
what's for dinner
Someone's asking
today?
what's for dinner today. Good question. I think we're actually going out to dinner,
Mhm.
which we try not to do a lot, but it's
Our
for
sweet,
Greg.
amazing niece, Madison. We're so proud of her, but she got into an incredible program at USC where she does her first year abroad. So she's moving to France next week for a year to complete her first year of college there. And then
Yes.
she'll come back and complete a business degree at USC. But we're going out to eat tonight for dinner for our sweet Madison. We're going to miss her, but we're excited. We're going to go visit her in November.
Yes. So yeah, so there's some background to that, and that's why we're going out. And
Mhm.
we're going out. I think we're getting Thai, and if we are getting Thai,
Mhm.
I probably would do like a Thai salad. We'll probably get some type of tofu and veggies. Do they have rolls there? We'll probably get like a roll, like
Ooh,
a
I
veggie
love, like,
roll.
yeah, rice paper rolls, a nice spring roll, and lots of veggies. Those are our
Yeah,
favorites.
yeah.
Fridays, we kind of are doing things that are a little easier because by the end of the week, we're
Tired
tired, guys.
guys. We run a
So
private practice.
usually we cook on Saturdays or Sundays. So that's what's for dinner today. We have a couple last questions coming in. Ooh,
Sure.
somebody's saying Zob Thai in Newport Beach is the best. I
Ooh.
love it. I think we're going to Bamboo Bistro, so we're excited.
Shout out to anyone in SoCal watching. Shout out to
Yes.
any USC Trojans
Come to Veg
alumni.
Fest if you're in Orange
Oh
County.
yeah,
Veg
book
Fest
it.
is
Book it.
next month. We will be speaking. We'll be moderating one panel on Saturday, September 23rd, and we will be speaking on a
Yes.
panel on Sunday, September 24th. So if you're in Southern California, you want to see us IRL, come to Veg Fest
What does
because we're
that mean? I'm not hip
excited.
enough to know what
You're
that
not
means.
cool enough. I'll tell you later.
So yeah, next month, guys, September. Wow, that's already around the corner. Just Google SoCal Veg Fest and you'll see
Mhm.
the website. Sign up.
All right.
Um,
Last couple of
okay, yeah,
questions.
yeah.
I was wondering if you have any tea recommendations to help with the gut. Ooh,
Oh,
love teas. I would say my favorite gut teas are top three, if I had to give a top three.
ooh, yeah.
Ginger to help with upper GI motility,
Okay,
nausea,
okay.
peppermint to
Peppermint.
help with lower GI motility and gas and pain. And I love Tulsi or holy basil tea to help stabilize mast cells and break down histamine. And one of our favorite ingredients to add to tea is our gut nurture. So
I
we
swear we didn't plan
created, I
these
know,
questions, but it's
this
perfect.
was
That's why we
not an
created.
obligatory question, but we made gut nurture to be added to things like teas, water, food, and it is
It is a
just a
ginger
helpful
tea
antioxidant.
amplified. It is an
I put it in
amazing.
our smoothie today. Did you
It was
taste it?
great. Oh, of course I
I
tasted
made
it.
a
It was gingery.
blueberry creamy cloud ginger smoothie today, and I put gut nurture in it. But love tea, so many great ones: fennel, chamomile, lavender,
Can't go
passion
wrong with tea,
flower.
guys.
Tea's wonderful. So
Another,
try
okay,
it.
this is the last question. Apple cider vinegar capsules impact on gut. LOL, thanks, guys. Apple cider vinegar capsules. I mean,
I don't know if you need the capsule. I like the apple cider vinegar if
yeah.
you can tolerate it. It's great for supporting acid levels in the stomach. It's
Hmm.
bitter, so it can help promote more bile output. So that way
Hmm.
your gallbladder is squeezing out more of that bile, which can be antimicrobial. So if you have a stagnant liver, or gallbladder, that can cause you to have gut dysbiosis or poor gut motility, because not only does that bile break down fat, it activates a hormone in the gut called motilin to help with motility, and it's antimicrobial. So if you are
Antifungal.
struggling, yep, antifungal, if you're struggling with fungus or some of those sulfur reducers or SIBO, optimize your bile output and stomach acid output. So, love the questions,
Apple cider vinegar.
love the
Thumbs up.
topic of leaky gut, and we hope that this was helpful for you all.
If you want more, marytalk.com, work one-on-one, or you can sign up for our newsletter. We hope to see you
Or
all at
just
SoCal
keep up
Veg
here
Fest.
with our free
Keep up here,
resources.
be on social media with us. We are so grateful for all of you. We thank you all so much. We love connecting with you.
Stay tuned next month, guys. Sign up for our newsletter. We are re-releasing, I will say, our Good Gut SIBO IBS program. Like I said, I was recording it before we started, which is why my voice sounds like this. But
Sounds great.
we're excited to re-release. So if you need help with fungal overgrowth, with histamine intolerance, sulfur intolerance, FODMAP intolerance, leaky gut, SIBO, IBS, pelvic floor issues, we have guest speakers, pelvic floor therapists, primary care doctors, gastroenterologists, emotional release, trauma. It is all in there in our SIBO IBS course. So if you want to be the first to know when the waitlist is open, then sign up for our newsletter. And you guys, it will be shortly up on our website to sign up for the waitlist.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here. We hope to
All
see
right.
you there. Check out our blog, check out our free resources, any other resources that we have. But we hope you have a beautiful weekend. We hope you continue to heal with each meal and feel with each meal as well.
Feel with each meal, everybody.
All right.
Until next time. Bye,
See you
everyone.
guys.